Data collection. The Common Core standards call for statewide longitudinal data systems, which collect, store, track, and share over 400 points of data on students and their parents. All 50 states agreed to this prior to Common Core ever being completed. These include things like their personal identifiers that can be pulled up, that the testing companies get access to. Dr. Bice says they don't, but they do. We've already identified that they do. It's their name, their parents' names, their address, the child's social security number, family income range, family religious orientation, family political affiliation, medical history, discipline records, legal, psychological information, and so forth. About 414 points is what the data model that's on the U.S. Department of Education's website calls for. According to the group that's evaluating the state's data systems, Quality Data Campaign, Alabama has all 10 categories of data collection requirements already in place. But we're not collecting anything. Data collection and assessment. Alabama's iNow student data records have been combined with Information Now Health, or Health Now. And they're connected, they feed into each other, just like those last two computers were going back and forth. This can be accessed by teachers, administrators, school nurses, and medical personnel. For medical information collected in an educational setting, including psychological evaluations, the privacy protections of HIPAA are exempted. That any medical information, whether it's psychological or physical, anything that's collected in the school setting is exempted from the privacy of HIPAA. So anything that they can't share in the doctor's office with, even in Alabama, even the parent of a 14-year-old without the child's consent can be shared with anybody if it comes from the school. Dr. Bice and others claim implementation in Alabama is voluntary and flexible. They say that the Alabama College and Career Ready standards are state-specific and that we can change or amend or withdraw from them at any point. That is totally false. Alabama, and this is what he says, we don't get any money. That doesn't matter. There are many claims that because we have not received funding and we have not received the waiver from No Child Left Behind, we haven't gotten the statewide longitudinal data systems grant, we don't get any money, so we're not bound to Common Core. This is also false. We applied to the Race to the Top grant in both Phase 1 and Phase 2. The requirements of the application say that no matter the outcome, you agree to the terms of adoption. And the school board voted to adopt the Common Core standards, as well as apply to No Child Left Behind. And we submitted an application that very clearly and explicitly states that we will adopt the Common Core state standards. These standards are not ours. We can't change them, we can't amend them, we can't delete them, we can't substitute them. They were written by individuals without experience in the subject fields of math and English language arts. They were developed by a corporation called Achieve, a nonprofit partnership organization who wrote the standards under the auspices of two trade organizations, the National Governors Association and the CCSSO, which is the top state school superintendents group. These are groups who lobby U.S. Congress on behalf of education issues. They are not representative groups from the states. A bunch of governors didn't get together and throw their standards out and say, this is what looks good. No. These are lobbyist groups who go to Congress to lobby for laws and funding for education. These standards are copyrighted by the NGA and the CCSSO in Washington, D.C. This is their liability statement. Basically says you take them as is. If they don't work, we're sorry. You can't sue us. As a parent, you can't sue the school system, and you can't sue the government, because when you send your child to a school, they take over. It's called parentis locus. They take over the authority of the parent while the child is in school. For preparation beyond high school, the standards are geared toward workforce needs. They prepare students to enter a job as a skilled laborer or to obtain a vocational technical degree or certificate. They do not prepare students for university level in college preparation for professional careers. They're all for high school graduates, 2-year colleges, 4-year colleges. They say college ready, but they're talking about a vo-tech college, not university professional level. In the curriculum changes, to this point, the only standards that have been implemented have been math. One parent told me they might as well call it circus math because all it does is go in circles. The textbooks are aligned to the curriculum, and it is very difficult and very confusing. For advanced students, and this also is for lower level students too, because a friend of mine teaches in Georgia, and she said what happens with them was when they had students who in 8th grade failed basic math, they had to go into Algebra 1 in 9th grade, and there was no other option. They were not ready for Algebra 1, and then once they get them through Algebra 1, they're going to have to take calculus or trig or pre-calculus or something else that they're not ready for in order to get enough credits to graduate. They're not going to pass. They're not going to get out. At the other end of the spectrum, the brighter students are not going to get the opportunity of taking algebra in 8th grade, and this will prevent those students from getting through the complete advanced math track of taking pre-calculus and calculus that's needed for advanced university level programs for math and science students. As an English teacher, these standards really drive me nuts. The curriculum changes here create a lot of difficulty for college-bound high school students. Literature is being changed to call for up to 70% informational text. Things like EPA manuals, which are all centered on global warming and environmental initiatives. Also, executive orders, the ones that have been shown have been also global education leaning. They're written at about a 6th to 7th, maybe 8th grade reading level, and at the lower end of the thinking skill spectrum. For beginning college English, high school students need traditional literature to be exposed to expansive vocabulary and to practice higher level thinking skills, which are achieved through literary devices. And I could go into a whole lot of explanation of that, but I won't for time. Just know that it's not what they need. The quality of the standards is so poor, it's untested and unproven that even members involved in their development would not approve them. Members of the Common Core Validation Committee, Dr. Sandra Stotsky and Dr. R. James Milgram, and former head of the Department of Education, Zev Werman, refused to sign off on the approval of the standards because they were such poor quality. And I have specific examples of why they wouldn't. I can give you some documents, some links to documents if you're interested in exploring this further. Private, religious, and home schools. You are not safe. David Coleman, who was the architect of the standards, he's been around for a long time in different educational circles. He is now with the College Board, which is a corporation. and has stated that the SAT will become aligned to the Common Core standards. Okay, that's one concern for students that are in other than public schools, that the SAT may be difficult. But there's some other things you need to know. Legislators and boards of education may require alignments to the standards down the road for approving a private or a home school. Schools, private and Christian schools, may be required by accrediting agencies to align to the standards. And through publishing companies and homeschool networks and groups, they're finding that a lot of their curriculums and networks are aligning with the standards. Furthermore, Roman Catholic dioceses are adopting Common Core. Some Lutheran and other Christian schools are as well. Many teacher prep education programs in colleges are teaching to the core. Colleges may refuse to accept, this is really, really concerning to me. Colleges may refuse to accept transcripts from homeschools if the standards are not aligned to Common Core. So your child may be homeschooled, and statistically speaking, 97% of all homeschooled students go on to complete college. That's way above public or private schools. But that's going to be a problem if they can't get into college to start with. But if that is repealed in Alabama, colleges within the state could not do that. Schools are only free from the standards if they receive no state or federal funds. Okay, y'all remember the big thing that they were just bragging about that they did, this great big thing, the best thing that's ever happened in education in the nation happened in Alabama, the Alabama Accountability Act? Well, it states that schools will remain accountable to implementing the career and college ready standards. As long as we have them, they have to teach them. That means that private schools that get those vouchers are getting government funding, and they will have to align with the Common Core standards if they accept the vouchers. And they have to accept the vouchers if they accept the student. Okay, cost. This is just unbelievable, and I cannot believe that my tax dollars that we work so hard to come up with every year, my last few years of teaching, my bring home pay covered my husband's taxes. Nationally, for the 45 states in Washington, D.C. that have adopted the standards, this is just the basic conservative cost of implementation for the first 7 years is $15,835,121,347, which breaks down to $351,891,585 per state out of state budgets. That's not federal funds. That's our state budgets. Okay, where are we going to come up with that over 7 years when we're broke? Well, Dr. Bice has been doing some creative accounting. He took from Peter to pay Paul and says he didn't. And I've been told, yes, AMSTI and ARI are still intact, but because we have the standards, of course we're going to address them. Go on the Alabama State Department of Education website, go to the link that says Alabama College and Career Ready Standards. Click on those links and read about the implementation teams and their retreats that they're taking and their private websites. Read about the changes and about how they're going to use brainwashing techniques that use words like resistance and compliance to training teachers to promote and implement the Common Core.